Hey guys, Canadian Range Nut here. It is Friday, June 10th, 2022. A few things I wanted to talk about today. So I've actually got four that I'm going to cover. The first is a video I want to share with you guys with a store in British Columbia, a gun store in British Columbia, just them kind of talking about the experience with the handgun ban so far. The second one is I want to talk a bit about the spat of carjackings that's been going on in Toronto. And obviously the reason I'm bringing that up is it's related to guns. Third thing I want to talk about is, I'm not sure if you've seen this or not, but Matthew Mcconaughey was recently in the White House talking about gun control. And then the fourth thing I want to talk about is one of the recent discoveries about the Emergencies Act that was implemented in February. Remember back when the truckers went to Ottawa to protest. So those are the four things I want to talk about today. Also, just wanted to say thank you to all my subscribers that are out there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to like or subscribe if you get any value out of the video. Also, one more thing, if you have any suggestions for me on any videos you'd like me to talk about, anything you want me to mention, and any videos you want me to look for, just let me know. All right, so first thing is, here is the gun store in BC, and this is a report done from CBC. I know not the most reliable, but they are talking directly to the gun store owner. So take a listen.
Responsible gun owner does is check.
Dan Shelmy shows off some of the handguns sold this week at this firearms shop in Kelowna. His store sold all the pistols in stock on Tuesday by noon, about 15 in total, as customers rushed in to buy handguns while they still can.
Okay, so did you catch that? By noon on the Tuesday. Remember, the announcement was implemented on the Monday. They sold out by noon on the Tuesday.
It's like when the lockdowns happened and everyone got worried and they went out and bought 600 rolls of toilet paper. People hear that something is happening and they panic.
Similar surges in sales have been reported in the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island. Legislation tabled in Ottawa this week to reduce gun violence will put a freeze on all handgun sales, transfers, and imports if passed. Shelmy says reaction in his store has been one of confusion and frustration, where responsible gun owners feel like they are being targeted.
The Prime Minister said it in his speech. Legal gun owners are not the problem. And then within 10 seconds, basically said, you're not the problem, but we're going to treat you like you are the problem.
Criminal gun violence in Canada has risen by a significant margin, according to Statistics Canada, with the criminal use of firearms up by more than 80% from 2009 to 2019.
And if you remember that last video that I showed you with Mendocino, he was talking about how Statistics Canada had mentioned that gun use was up by that amount. But of course, he failed to mention the fact that it was criminal use of firearms.
But critics of the newly announced legislation say the freeze on handgun sales is the wrong approach to stopping that.
Whether you say, okay, well, you can't have a handgun or not, it's not going to reduce violent firearms crime in Canada. It doesn't have a chance. And it doesn't address mental health issues, which is a conversation that just hasn't even begun yet in Canada.
And despite the surge in sales this week, people who sell firearms say the legislation will impact their bottom line.
Businesses like ours, we're going to see a hit because, of course, we can't sell handguns.
He wants to see the government move its target off responsible gun owners and focus in on criminals importing firearms from the U.S. Brady Strachan, CBC News, Kelowna.
Okay, so we know that's not going to happen because we know the Liberal government loves to go after people who can actually follow the law. And it's all a bunch of virtue signaling, and it's going to do nothing to reduce crime. We all know that. And I love arguing this with people who have no idea about how handguns work. And it's funny because a lot of the people in Canada don't even know the vetting that we have to go through as law-abiding gun owners. They don't understand the process of the hoops that we have to jump through as far as the criminal reference check and the background check and making sure your spouse in the last 2 years thinks it's okay for you to get a gun. And by the way, if you don't know, that is actually on the application, because again, I just got my license. It hasn't even been a year yet for me. I got mine. It finally came in the mail. I think it was like last October of 2021. So like I said, I'm still pretty new to this stuff. And there is a section there where it says if you were separated in the last, I think it was said 2 years, you had to basically get your spouse to put their name on there and then say it was okay. So I live with somebody now, so she was okay with it, right? But so they're obviously thinking about the domestic violence issue there. So so I just want to give the side of the gun stores. You got to really feel for these gun stores, guys. You know, I don't know what they're gonna do, like, because I know some handguns are like their main business. These guys are going to end up going out of business. So try to help them where you can. If you can purchase a new toy, you know, go ahead and do that. That's going to help these guys. But I really don't know what's going to happen in the long run. That's what's really concerning. So I think our best bet is to get political. Again, I've mentioned this before. Write to your MPs, write to your MPPs, and let them know how you feel as responsible firearm owners. Okay, so now that we're finished talking about the topic of law-abiding gun owners, let's move on to the next video I wanted to share with you. Now, this one is regarding the recent spat of carjackings that have been going on in Toronto area. So just take a listen here.
New developments in the investigation into a series of violent carjackings. Police make several arrests. Good afternoon. The two suspects are teenagers and face 100 charges.
They were arrested as part of...
First of all, are you really shocked that they're teenagers and it's 100 charges? I'm shocked about the 100 charges, but keep listening.
Toronto Police's Project Zigzag, an effort to curb a rash of recent carjackings in the GTA. CTV's Austin Delaney joins us from Toronto Police headquarters with the details. Austin.
Well, for the car owners, this was baffling because they didn't have fancy cars. But the thieves, they didn't want high-end cars to sell again overseas. They wanted getaway cars for other crimes. There was a spate of carjackings last month in Scarborough and in Pickering. Armed thieves would demand drivers give them their keys in their driveways. Now, 2 people have been arrested.
To date, we have laid 100 charges against a 19-year-old man and a 17-year-old boy as a result of this investigation.
I love how he calls the 17-year-old a boy just because he's technically a minority. Give me a break.
The investigation was dubbed Project Zigzag as police moved to stem a growing trend of carjackings in the city.
Between May 15th, which was a Sunday, and Thursday, May 26, 2022, police responded to 10 carjackings and a related retail robbery, all largely taking place in Scarborough. During these incidents, the suspect was armed with a handgun and would approach victims in their driveways, demanding their keys, ultimately to get their vehicles.
And just a reminder, you should always know what your whereabouts, mind your surroundings. But yeah, a handgun that the teen had. What do you guys think the odds are that that handgun was illegal? I'm gonna guess it was probably like 99%.
Police say they were able to identify 2 persons of interest and followed them.
While driving in Brampton, a high-risk takedown was initiated and the 2 males were taken into custody without incident. We allege 2 handguns, a knife, quantity of stolen property, a robbery kit, and clothing used during these offenses was located and seized.
Most carjackings involve high-end vehicles, but not in this case, say police.
Particular investigation, many of the vehicles were not high-end, quote-unquote, and evidence to date suggests that these vehicles were intended to be used to commit other criminal offenses.
So far, police know of 1 retail robbery involving these 2. And investigators point out for the victims, these are really scary times. They're having a loaded gun pointed at their head at night, often in their own driveway. Live, I'm Austin Delaney.
Once again, a loaded gun. Sorry, I just got to turn the sound off here. Loaded gun pointed at their head, and I'm willing to bet a lot of money that those were illegal handguns, but yet the Liberal government wants to come after us. Okay, moving on next. Now, I don't know if you guys heard about this. So they're pushing for more gun control in the United States. And recently, I found this really weird. Matthew McConaughey was at the White House. And I think it was yesterday or the day before. Anyway, I watched a little bit of it, and I couldn't watch the whole thing, but I just wanted to get the main little snippet out of it for you. It just seemed really weird to me, and I understand, the celebrities sway, but ever since all the pandemic stuff, I've really become like anti-celebrity because I just know they're full of it, especially after the Black Lives Matter. And I like Mcconaughey too, but he's actually from Uvalde, Texas, so I guess they use that. And I have a feeling he does want to run for office, so he's probably using this as an opportunity for himself. I don't really know what to think of what he's talking about. There's some things I agree with. There's some things I don't. So it's only like a 2-minute clip from him, and then I'll talk about it. And again, any ideas that you guys get, any comments you want to talk about, put them in the comment section, and I will get back to you. Okay, let me find that clip here. And here we go.
Texas Rangers, Hunters, Border Patrol, and
So just to give you some context to this clip, this is Mcconaughey at the White House at the podium speaking about how they asked Texas Rangers, cops, parents what they should do about the gun control.
Responsible gun owners who won't give up their Second Amendment right to bear arms. And you know what they all said? We want secure and safe schools, and we want gun laws that won't make it so easy for the bad guys to get these damn guns.
I'm pretty good with that so far.
So, we know it's on the table. We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage.
I really like that point, the restraining and sensationalizing media coverage. Because once again, when these mass shootings happen, right away you're getting the name of the shooter. You're getting what his life was like. So these people who are like, I don't care if you have mental illness or not, that's fine. A lot of these people do this to get that attention and you'll see a lot of these mass shootings too, are the ones where they actually shoot themselves. They want to go down in history. They want to be remembered. They know if they're just a regular Joe Schmo, they're never going to be remembered. But now their name, think of the guy who shot up the theater at the Dark Knight Rises. Think of the Columbine guys. You know their name. Really, we shouldn't know their name. Their names should not even be mentioned in the media. And I think that'll eliminate a lot of these copycat guys. But let's continue.
We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values.
Okay, I think that's really important as well, restoring family values. I think I've noticed a huge culture shift in Canada. I'm sure the same thing has happened in the U.S. First of all, you never used to see these mass shootings before. That's one thing, at least not at this level. Second of all, I just remember today is June 10th. 4 days ago was D-Day. I don't know if you guys remember that. Now, usually I used to see a lot of posts on Facebook. When you're at school, sometimes you'd hear about it. Apparently Biden didn't say a word about it, and Trudeau did not say a word about it either. So you had these guys on D-Day go to this beach. Millions died in World War II, and it's not even a mention anymore. And it just kind of shows you how far our values have changed from that generation to where we are now. I'm going to keep going with this.
And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle.
Okay, so I do believe I think background checks are important. I do think if you're a convicted felon, even if there is the Second Amendment in the States, I think if you're a convicted felon, you shouldn't be allowed to have a gun, unless it's like a drug charge or something like that. That would be a totally different story. But I'm not sure about the raising the age to 21, because there's two things for me here. If you're willing now in the States, it's obviously different because in Canada we can drink at 19. In the US you can't drink until you're 21. So my thing with this is, if you're gonna restrict that to 21-year-olds, then really you should be restricting military service to 21-year-olds too. At least that's my opinion, but I'm sure there's going to be a huge debate about this, but let's finish what he has to say here.
To 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them.
So red flag laws, we kind of have that in Canada anyway with when you can call the CFO and report somebody who might be a risk to them. I know there's a lot of people in the States who are afraid of red flag laws because somebody can just, if somebody gets pissed off at you, can call and then they take your guns away. I like what he said about the red flag laws having consequences for people who abuse it, because I do think that is important. Because how many times have you heard situations in the media, now this is not about guns, but situations with regards to like sexual assault and stuff like that, and the person doesn't even know who the accuser is, and person ends up being cleared and nothing else comes out of it, right? So that is the risk with red flag laws. You have this risk of people who can abuse the system, so there does have to be consequences for that. Let's keep going.
These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment.
So I feel like at this part here, he's starting to get more Hollywoodish / I want to run for office type of character.
Look, is this cure-all? Hell no. But people are hurting. Families are, parents are. And look, as divided as our country is, this gun responsibility issue is one that we agree on more than we don't. It really is. But this should be a nonpartisan issue.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there. If you want to look it up, just Google Matthew McConaughey at the White House. It's easy to find. I feel like near the end he might have gone off the rails a little bit because he did the same rhetorical crap that most politicians do. You know, this shouldn't be a partisan issue, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, in the U.S., if you don't know the history of the U.S., their Second Amendment was written because when they first were declared a new country for Independence Day, during the war, when the British Army had come, they'd make the civilians quarter their soldiers in their own houses and stuff like that. So in order to prevent that from ever happening again, they included the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And it actually goes deeper than just the Second Amendment. So maybe I'll do another video about that too. So sorry to the people in the US if I'm screwing this up royally. But basically it comes down to the historical context, because when the U.S. declared independence in 1776, there was a lot of bad stuff went on, and you can even just watch a good miniseries was John Adams. Actually, it showed how what happened with the Boston Tea Party, how soldiers were just using people's houses. Even the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson kind of shows that aspect of it as well. So you can understand from that aspect why the Second Amendment exists. The whole point of it existing is there's supposed to be a civilian militia, so that if a foreign entity was ever going to invade the United States, the people would be armed and ready to go to prevent that. So that's the whole point behind the Second Amendment. Now, some people today, I'm getting off topic now, but I do kind of want to go with this. Some people today will say, well, you don't need the Second Amendment anymore because that's not going to happen. It's like, well, maybe it didn't happen because the Second Amendment does exist. But it's funny when you talk to people who know nothing about guns and they think the Second Amendment was written just for hunting and stuff like that. And the funny thing is, to those people who think the Second Amendment has no meaning, look at the people in the Ukraine. Apparently in Taiwan now, people in Taiwan, like I'm talking civilians, are starting to train with guns in case China tries to invade Taiwan. So again, before you're going to comment, you gotta look at the history. And like I said, when I was anti-gun before, I didn't know any of this history. I knew a little bit, but not to the context of the Second Amendment. All right. For the and with the McConaughey thing too, please comment in the comment section below. I do want to hear how you feel about this, because I know this is a very sensitive topic, but I do think it's important to talk about this stuff. The last thing I wanted to talk about, this is more Canada related now. Recent information came out. If you guys remember the trucker protest in February, Sorry, guys, just going to take a quick drink. The trucker protest in February in Ottawa when Trudeau announced the Emergencies Act. There's a lot of information coming out now that we're basically the Liberals, we know they lie a lot. It's like a habit of theirs. But Mendocino was basically lying about why they implemented it. They were saying that the police were asking them to do it. So I'm just going to play that video for you. It's from Lily Unleashed. It's from the Toronto Sun, but just take a listen here.
We invoked the Emergencies Act after we received advice from law enforcement. The advice we received was to invoke the Emergencies Act.
The Trudeau government caught lying again about the Emergencies Act. Hi, I'm Brian Lilly, political columnist with the Toronto Sun. We've heard that claim.
Now, just a little disclaimer, the Toronto Sun is more of a conservative paper, but let's face it, you're either CBC is a liberal paper and basically funded by Trudeau, and the Sun is a more conservative paper, and they're all going to have their biases. So here we go.
From Marco Mendocino, the public safety minister, time and time again, they only brought in the Emergencies Act because, well, the police asked for it. It was at the request of the police after consulting with the police. They've changed the language several times, but their claim remains the same. They did this because it's what police wanted. And Mendocino has stated this over and over again. Check out this compilation from Cosman over at the True North Center.
Look, I don't want to speak for every last serving member of law enforcement, but there was a very strong...
I remember Mendocino is the guy saying that Stats Canada shows the gun crime rate with handguns is up by like 80%, failing to mention that it's from criminals. So right away, there's another lie he's talking about, but here you go.
Consensus that we needed to invoke the act. We invoked the act because it was the advice of nonpartisan professional law enforcement. The advice that we were getting was that that law enforcement needed the Emergencies Act. It was only after we got advice from law enforcement that we invoked the Emergencies Act, and that advice came from very experienced law enforcement. We had to invoke the Emergencies Act, and we did.
So it's always a script with these guys, right? And I know the conservatives do the same thing, but the liberals seem to just run with it more and more.
So on the basis of nonpartisan professional advice from law enforcement. And that was the advice that we were receiving from law enforcement. And one of the main reasons why we invoked the Emergencies Act. We got the advice from our law enforcement that we met the threshold. They then came to their judgment, as you say. And thereafter, we came to ours on the basis of the advice that we were getting from law enforcement.
Of course, since those claims were made, we found out that they're not true at all.
The RCMP commissioner.
So this is Candace Bergen talking. She's the leader of the Conservatives right now.
Clearly stated in committee yesterday that the RCMP didn't request that the act be invoked and that police used existing legislation to resolve border blockades.
Brenda Luckie, the commissioner of the RCMP, appeared before a Commons committee investigating the use of the Emergencies Act and said her department never asked for it. The former chief of the Ottawa Police, Peter Slowly, said he never asked for it. And acting police chief Steve Bell, who replaced him, said the same thing. Now Mendocino's department is saying, look, he's just been misunderstood. No, he's not been misunderstood. Like so many issues surrounding the use of the Emergencies Act, he's been caught lying. Now, that's unparliamentary language, but thankfully for Minister Mendocino, I'm not in Parliament. But he is not telling the truth. He has fibbed. He has lied. He has changed and altered his story more than once. They invoked the Emergencies Act because it was politically popular.
Okay, and one thing I just want to say, you might be wondering, well, why do I care about the Emergencies Act right now? So think of how quickly they put that into place. As a gun owner, as a Canadian citizen, you should be concerned about that, but especially as a gun owner, they've already targeted us with handguns. How easy would it be for them to say, okay, you got to turn in your handguns now, right? Without any opposition. And the problem is these politicians are never held to account, especially this Liberal government. They seem to get away without answering any questions. But the one thing, if you forgot about this, remember when they froze everyone's bank accounts for the truckers too? Anyone who was involved with the truckers. Do you guys remember that? They told the banks to actually freeze their bank accounts, and they were able to do that because they implemented the Emergencies Act. So that's why I included it in this, because it affects virtually every Canadian citizen. If you're not doing something if you're doing something they don't want you to do, well, we'll just implement the act, right? And I think the fact that they've already done it makes it sets a precedent for the next time as well. And by the way, I did support the truckers. It was funny because, when you heard, I'm sure you guys know this is a bunch of BS, but, it was a bunch of racists and stuff like that. Oh, there was a Nazi flag. Yeah, there was one Nazi flag out of how many thousands of people. I actually went myself to one of the areas, one of the send-offs. I wasn't in Ottawa. I'm not going to tell you where I was, but let's just say about 5 hours from Ottawa. We'll go with that. And so I went to one of the send-offs where all the truckers were going through, went by myself. I felt perfectly safe, did not see any racist flags, did not see anything inappropriate, except for our favorite Trudeau flag. Maybe that was it. But that always sells out on Amazon. But the nicest people, the truckers, were awesome. So as soon as I saw the news starting to bash these truckers, I knew there was a lot of BS, and it just made me realize I already knew a lot of news was fake and made up for an agenda, but it really made me question everything I saw, whether it was the war in Ukraine, this new monkeypox stuff coming up, all the COVID crap. It just basically made me realize you can't really trust anybody. And even stuff I say, like, question everything. If I say something wrong, I don't care if you call me out on it. You know what I mean? Like, I would prefer that, to be honest. I'm just going to finish up this video, and then we'll get to the end of the podcast here.
But it wasn't needed to clear out the protests, the convoy in Ottawa. What was needed was for the local police service, Ottawa Police, the people in charge, to do their jobs. And once Peter Slowly was fired, once Steve Bell took over, and regular police tactics were used instead of progressive policing, the streets were cleared. That's all that it took. But there was political pressure on Mendocino, on Trudeau, on the entire government. And that's why they invoked the Emergencies Act. That's why they suspended civil liberties, which they have claimed they did not do. And that is why they continue to change their story and not tell the truth to the Canadian public. We've got an inquiry into the use of this act, but if it continues along the lines of how the Trudeau government has been answering basic questions from MPs and journalists, don't expect much truth.
And this inquiry is apparently run by a lot of liberals as well, so it's kind of useless in that aspect as well. You might get a bit out of it, but you're not going to get much, right?
To come out of that inquiry. Let me know what you think. Drop a comment.
Okay, so I'll stop it there. That's it. That's all I have to talk about for tonight, guys. So please remember to like and subscribe. If you got any value out of that, make sure you click the bell as well. That way you'll get every new video that I send out. And give me some feedback. Give me some feedback in the comments. Let me know how you're liking the podcast. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is there anything I can improve upon? Is the sound okay? Would you prefer a more of a video type podcast? I seem to be getting good feedback doing it in this manner. So let me know what you guys think. If there's any other topics that you want me to cover as far as the gun issue goes, just put it right in the comments and I'll try to make a video about that stuff. So have a great night, and I hope you have a good weekend, guys. And we'll talk to you soon at Canadian Range Net, and see you later.